Welcome to Balanced Life with Debbie Carlin Boyle. Conversations connecting to a healthier you. The show that gives you all the latest and greatest health and wellness information to inspire you to live a life of balance and joy. Debbie Carlin Boyle is a health and nutrition coach, personal trainer, and fitness instructor who helps her clients live in balance with everything that feeds us, in addition to the food on our plate. Please welcome your host, Debbie Carlin Boyle.
Hello, welcome everybody. Welcome. If you're just watching us live, thank you. I welcome you to my show. I am your host. I am Debbie Carlin Boyle, and as you heard at the top, I am a personal trainer, a fitness instructor, and a health and nutrition coach. And I welcome you to the show today. I have a subject I don't think in my 8 years doing this show that I've actually addressed women's reproductive health. And that's what this show is about today. I have a great guest. She's an expert in her field. Can't wait to talk to her, get your questions, and I'm going to tell you right away, you can become part of this conversation. And in order to do that, you want to call us here at area code 323-524-2599. One more time, 323-524-2599. We'd love to hear from you. If you have a question, I know it's a delicate subject that we're talking about today. So call in anonymously, use a different name if you want. Ask a question that you may want the answer to today. And as we get into the conversation, we'd love to hear from you. If you can't do that or you're watching the show post-show, go to the comment section, ask your questions, make a comment. Myself or my guest will get back to you after the fact, and we'll make sure that you get caught up and know that the answer is waiting for you. So do become involved today. We would really like to have you do that. Now, for a second, I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself and what I do and how hopefully I can get to know you as well. I am a personal trainer and a fitness instructor, and again, a health and nutrition coach. So what does that all mean? So as a coach, I'm going to help you make all those small, sustainable changes to change your bad habits to good ones over a period of time, not too long, that we can actually shift you into a healthy lifestyle. And I think everybody needs a coach when you're trying to achieve something. I mean, even the greatest, all the goats in the world have coaches to take them up to a next level. And I would love to work with you. So to do that, you'll want to go to my website, which is balancedlifebydebbie, DEBI.com. And there you're going to see all kinds of tabs that say, come talk to me, have a consultation. It will tell you all about what I do. I work with individuals, I work with groups, I do workshops. I'm here to get you on your journey to longevity with quality. And if you want to, just tap in and say hi. We'll ask you a few little questions so I know what my audience is interested in. And I can tell you offhand, just from the most of the inquiries that I get, is most people want sustainable weight loss. Who doesn't, right? So I'm here to help you with all of that. So just go and get your free consultation with me by going to balancedlifebydebbie, DEBI.com. And I will be right there for you to get right back to you, and we'll set up a 30-minute free consultation. All right, great show for you today. Like I said at the top, let's get on with the introductions, because today we're going to be talking about women's health. More specifically, women's reproductive health. Did you know that infertility is increasingly common and 1 in 6 couples in the U.S. will go through this? Well, enter my guest today, Courtney Saye. Courtney is a certified FDN-P specializing in fertility. She works with clients to help them get and stay pregnant through her signature method of root cause healing. Yes, indeed, root causes. That's so important. Many of her clients come to her after trying everything in the traditional fertility system and not finding answers or success. Courtney uses a full panel of functional labs, customized protocols, and ongoing daily support through the process to help her clients get to their dream baby. She had her own tough fertility journey with a second trimester of miscarriage and years of unexplained secondary infertility. She is passionate about leading change in the world of fertility care, one successful pregnancy at a time. So let's get to it. Will you please welcome my guest, Courtney Saye, to the show? Hi, Courtney.
Hello. Thanks for having me,
audience.
Debbie.
Thanks for being here. There's our audience. They're in the walls. They're around. They're. You just can't see them, but they're here. Courtney, did I say your last name? I forgot to ask you how you pronounce. Okay.
Yeah, it's just Saye.
Okay.
Nothing fancy.
Yeah. I just wasn't sure if there was that extra E had something fancy attached to it, but no, it doesn't. Welcome, Courtney. I'm so excited to host you today. I think this is something that, you and I have talked about this, just full disclosure. Courtney's a friend of mine. I know her, and I asked her to be on the show because what she does is so remarkably important. And I think that many women don't know that her service or this type of thing is out there for them to explore before they go down that rabbit hole of infertility clinics and IVF. And we're going to talk all about that. So I just really appreciate what you do, and I'm so glad to have you today. Courtney, I mentioned that you were a certified FDN-P. What does that stand for?
Yeah, it's Functional Diagnostic Nutrition Practitioner. There are about 1,100 of us with thriving practices throughout. A lot of us are in the U.S., some ex-U.S., some out of the country. We go through a very intensive year-long training for that base certification with clinical casework and pretty intensive training. And then I went on after that to do advanced training for my specialty. So in hormone health, gut health, thyroid health, and functional blood chemistry analysis.
Wow, that's a lot. So we're going to dial it back just for a second. I want to get to your origin story. And I don't really know. I know about you from adulthood, but I don't really know what your background is, where you're from, if you're an LA girl or any of that. So I would love to hear from the beginning. Where were you born? What was your initial passion and education? And then how did you get into all of this? So
yeah,
start from the beginning.
Okay. So not an LA girl, love LA now, but I'm from Kansas City, born and raised, went to college there. My whole family's there. Grew up in a very loving, extended Irish Catholic family back there. Went to the University of Kansas. I met my husband there young, after freshman year. We dated and got married in our 20s. Started our family in Kansas City and then moved. So came to LA. We went to the East Coast for a couple of years and back. And so that's like the quick version of geography and how we met. But the deeper story on how I ended up where I am today, as far as what I'm doing for a living, really started, it goes all the way back to childhood, really. Because the fertility piece is huge, and I chose to work with fertility clients versus another area of support because of my own journey. But if I go back and think about when the problems started bubbling up in my body, it started in childhood, like symptoms that were unexplained, no one could help with.
Such as what kind of symptoms? Yeah.
Yeah. Headaches and stomach aches when I was probably middle school, I remember. And it was like, everything looks fine. And that's kind of the story of my medical journey, as well as a lot of women I work with, of like, everything's fine. All your tests look normal. It went on into, later teens where I had irregular and painful periods and acne and headaches still. And they said, oh, birth control is the answer. Take birth control. That's the answer for everything. Unfortunately, it's still the answer for everything. and took that for a number of years. And some things, like it masks some things for a bit, but towards the end of when I was taking that, I had gut symptoms getting really bad. And when I went off of it, everything that it had masked for a while came roaring back. My periods were very irregular. And everyone this whole time was like, nothing's wrong. Or your tests look normal, right? And so we had our son easily. We not long, maybe a year and a half. He's going on 16, so maybe a year and a half or so after we got married, going on 2 years, I guess, he was born. And I thought, well, this part of life is easy for me. I get pregnant easily. We knew we wanted two kids, and started trying for a second right as he turned 1. And I got pregnant the second month. And I was like, great, this is easy for me. Like, I'm just fertile. I remember making those jokes. And I had a miscarriage at 17 weeks with that second pregnancy. It's still years later kind of brings me to tears to talk about.
Yes.
Because it's devastating and it's heartbreaking. And I work with a lot of women now who have recently gone through one or more miscarriages and never had answers. And I said, are we going to do some testing? Is there something going on here? No, it just happens. Like,
this is going to your general OB/GYN or your, is saying this is just normal, just everything.
Just happens.
Yeah. I hate that answer.
Yeah, I hate that answer because it's like, well, unfortunately, sometimes it does just happen, but you're not going to look and see if there's something there. Like, we're not going to dig deeper.
Yeah.
So I thought, and I didn't know how to deal with grief yet back then. So I was like, I'll just I get pregnant easily. We'll just try again. So I think I was bearing all that grief instead of dealing with it. I didn't get pregnant easily. We went on to deal with years of unexplained secondary infertility.
What is secondary infertility? What does that mean?
It means you've got a child first. So I have a lot of women who come to me, and some of them have 2 or 3 kids, and they know they want a 3rd or 4th. Like, it's so personal, like how many kids you're going to bring into the world. And they had 3 really easy pregnancies, and this time they're going through hell. Or they had 1 child and now it's been 3 years and they can't get pregnant. So secondary just means you've had a successful pregnancy before. And unexplained is a term that gets used so often in traditional fertility care that really like pushes my buttons, because it means they've run all of the tests that they know how to run in traditional fertility care that are very focused on your reproductive system, and they don't have an answer. So they call it unexplained infertility, and they send you down a path of fertility treatments, which I tried a few rounds of. It didn't work. Eventually, I went on to have my daughter, and I think I was lucky enough to have her because I was still relatively young. But now, knowing now what was going on and bubbling in my body back then, the biochemical things that were off, I don't know, even if it was a couple of years later, if we would have gotten there.
Did you, so you did go through the fertility treatments, so through a functional medicine practitioner, that is not the way you got pregnant, correct?
Yeah,
okay.
No.
But so what made you want to dig deeper after your whole ordeal?
So it really was like, you fast forward years later, right? I had my daughter, was lucky enough to have her after all of this. And I was a really lonely, sad, like desperate time in those few years. All of these symptoms that I had going on, gut symptoms, headache, acne, all of these things kept getting worse and worse and worse over time. My daughter is 12 now. This was a few years ago. And no one in traditional medicine could help me. I went through a full GI workup, dermatologist, all of the specialists, and I finally found functional medicine. And this happens all the time with clients too, where it's this moment when you get these functional labs back and there are answers on it, where it's like you're excited because there's finally answers and you're not crazy. And there's a lot of grief along with it too, when you've been through a lot of suffering for years and the answers were there all along.
Right.
So there were a lot of answers in my functional labs. Looking back, there were even answers in traditional medicine that they ignored. Like there were signs of fatty liver disease that my fertility specialist found during an exploratory surgery, and he laughed it off. And your liver health is intimately connected to your fertility. So all of that stuff was there all along. And then it just continued to get worse and worse and worse. So I found functional medicine. I started to heal myself. It was so life-changing that I uprooted everything I'd, done with my career. My past career was working in tech startups, and went through all this training. And while I was going through it, it was, where do you want to specialize? And I kept coming back to how impactful and painful my fertility journey was, and how amazing it would have been to have somebody who could walk you through all of these labs, who could help you through all the protocols, who you could reach out to anytime, that I never had. So that's kind of how I ended up here.
That's amazing. So what does studying this and becoming this, what is functional fertility? What's the definition? What would you say is the definition of that?
Yeah. So I don't know if this is the exact definition, but the way I like to talk to people about it is the difference between traditional allopathic medicine and functional health. And so our traditional healthcare system is very much based in specialties. So you've got a primary care provider who's very much a generalist. And if they find something off, they're going to send you to a specialist. And those specialists are trained as a neurologist, as a dermatologist, as a GI doctor, as a reproductive endocrinologist for fertility. And they look at the body almost in compartments, right? Like these fertility doctors are amazing at knowing the ins and outs of everything to do with your reproductive tract. When you start talking about things outside of the reproductive tract that impact fertility, it's a little fuzzy. Like that's not where their testing lies. That's not where their training was. That's why a lot of times when there's a case of unexplained infertility, the actual root causes for that lie outside of the reproductive tract. So if you compare and contrast that to the functional approach, we are looking at the body as a whole of interconnected systems that all have impacts on the others. Your gut, your liver, your thyroid, your nutrient and mineral status and your cells, your inflammation status, all of that has impacts on your fertility and your hormone health. So we're looking at it as a whole. We're seeing what's off in the body and imbalances, and we are working on correcting those imbalances from the root cause up. And there's another point of kind of difference there, where in traditional medicine, you're looking to diagnose and treat disease, right? So they're going to run a test. They're going to see, like, you have this disease. Here are the treatments I have available. Here are the medications I have available. We're going to look and say, we're not looking to diagnose disease. We're looking for imbalances and looking to correct those imbalances at the cellular level.
So basically, it's not a one size fits all, which is what functional medicine is all about. Is the holistic whole body approach, knowing that everything feeds each other. Your hormones are related to your organs, and how you feed yourself has everything to do with how your hormones are going to react, and what your metabolic health is, and your thyroid. There's so many things that interact. Like you said, the fatty liver disease, that's metabolic health basically is off. So in functional medicine, here's the thing, you and I have talked about this, but functional medicine is not recognized by insurance companies. So people are almost forced to go to these traditional medical Western specialists when they get, in this case, in a infertility situation, because they want to be covered up to a certain point. And, that amazes me when we can simplify things with doing the right labs. Let's talk about that for a second. The difference between a functional medicine lab and going to a specialist and having labs done.
Yeah. So if anyone comes and follows me on Instagram, you'll see that I've got a lot of passion around changing this whole fertility care model. And you're right, insurance doesn't cover these labs. A lot of my clients will use an HSA or FSA, but insurance is not going to cover it. Traditional labs that are covered by insurance are so surface level and not digging in deep enough for most people. Now, if you're lucky and you've got like some basic thing going on, like a blocked tube that they can correct, then maybe that side's going to help. But even if they run, let's say they'll tend to run like what's called the day 3 hormone panel to look at your baseline hormones. And if those are off, in Western medicine, they're going to say, well, we can supplement those hormones, or we can try this drug to stimulate ovulation, or whatever the imbalance is over there. We dig way deeper into the metabolites of the hormones. We're looking at your cortisol levels, how your body is biochemically handling stress. We're looking at what's going on in your gut. Is there an infection, bacterial imbalance, yeast overgrowth, anything like that going on in the gut? We're looking to say, what is your nutrient and mineral status and amino acids and all of those things? What does that look like? Because that impacts every cell in your body too. What's a full thyroid panel look like? Whereas a lot of people will come to me and they're like, I had my thyroid panel checked by my doctor and it was fine. And they send it to me and their doctor ran TSH. Usually it's just TSH. And the TSH is like 3.4 and their doctor said it's all good. That's not all good in the functional health world. So I'd say the two key differences are we're digging deep. We're trying to find the root cause of like, but why are your hormones off? Not just like your hormones are off, take progesterone. If progesterone's low, there's a reason for progesterone to be low, and it usually lies in the gut or a nutrient and mineral depletion going on. So we're digging deeper to find out why and actually go from the ground up in healing. And the lab ranges we're looking at, if we're talking about blood chemistry, are very different. So when clients come to me, I'll say, if you've got blood chemistry from the last few months with your physician, send it to me. I want to look at it. And we'll look at it from a functional lens. And inevitably, there are multiple things. It depends, at least 3 or 4 in everyone's, some a lot more, where the traditional lab range said it was fine. And from a functional lab range, there's something out of whack. And the reason for that is traditional lab ranges in this country are based on the average of the population. Mm-hmm. And over time, let's talk about the last 20 years, our population has gotten increasingly unhealthy. And so those lab ranges have gotten wider and wider and wider. And so what's within lab range and okay is actually not representing, it's not representing optimal cellular health, which is what we're aiming for, especially when we're trying to conceive and carry a child. So we're looking at it from a much tighter lens that says, actually, we want optimal function. We're not looking to just not be an active disease state. Right. We're looking for optimal function. So those are the two key differences.
I think, in fertility health for sure, but I think in general in health, we are going by the averages and the way Western medicine treats people. And because people it's gotten worse and worse and worse in a bigger population of very unhealthy people throughout the world, not just this country, that the bar has changed. And, and then people stay sick even when they are getting sort of general treatment, or general medication, which a lot of times medications make you more sick because you never really address the root cause of the problem. And that's probably one of the reasons, that's probably why at the top of the show when I said, because you gave me this statistic, 1 in 6 couples will be infertile or have fertility situations. And why is it it's growing? That's happening worse and worse. And that's because of, why do you say? It's because, our food sources are depleted, the way we're taking care of ourselves, environmental. What would you say?
It's all of it, right? Like we live in a very connected world where in some ways it's amazing. Like everything's at your fingertips. And in some ways, it's causing complete cortisol dysregulation when you're always on and you've got, notifications at your fingertips all the time. Mm-hmm. So part of it is this connected world where we're on hyper alert status all the time, and that's dysregulating our cortisol, which for those who aren't familiar, like your cortisol is the stress hormone, which you want to have working correctly, and it should go up in times of stress and then back down. We're sitting up here all the time if we're not careful about it. And that can dysregulate your sex hormones downstream. Food is another big part of it. Like we live in a culture of convenience instead of eating real food. And even if you are doing a really good job of trying to eat really nutritious food, our soil is super depleted. Mm-hmm. So it's near impossible to get all the nutrients and minerals you need from food alone. because of what we've done with commercial farming to our soil. And then environmental toxins is another one. Like I don't have the exact number, but women are exposed to somewhere around 185 chemicals on a daily basis. And women more so than men because we have more personal care products, makeup, all those things. So it's a combination of factors of our stressful world, how we're nourishing our bodies, and then the products we use.
Yeah, makes so much sense. And that's so true in any kind of disease that you may get diagnosed with. I think that's, those are contributing factors all the way around. And there are ways around them. And that's why the functional medicine world is so important to us, to the patient, to the general population, to have access to that care. And it really gets specialized when it is really only access for people who can afford it. And that takes a whole huge, part of the population out that could really benefit from understanding what it is that the root cause, how to address it, how to replace it, and do it for the long run smartly. That's it just the whole insurance thing really bothers me. I really have an issue. Now, we're going to get into it. I want to talk a little bit about the difference, like going down the IVF path and how you can really keep a client from having that situation, and get into when you're older, having pregnancy, the longevity thing, being pregnant older. We're going to get into all that, but we're going to go for a really quick word from one of my sponsors, and we're going to come back right after this message. Cicera Olio de Oliva is an extra virgin olive oil company with a mission to provide high-quality, current-season Italian oils to families. They have partnered with 2 centuries-old family farms in the Tuscany region of Italy to grow, harvest, and bottle their amazing oils. Founded by a nutritionist who has a love of the land, sustainability, nutritious foods, and of course, Italy, they strive for a peak freshness and high nutritional content in every single bottle. All of their oils are current season, extra virgin olive oil, bringing you a true branch to bottle experience, and I know firsthand. So, for an offer, go to www.cesarioliva.com and enter Balanced Life 10 for 10% off. I know you're going to love this healthy and delicious addition to just about any meal. All right, we're back with my guest today, fertility specialist Courtney Saye. And speaking of food, I mean, that olive oil is one of the best, as you know, fats that we can have. And again, the source, you want to go organic, you want to go cold press, you want to look at what the source of that olive oil is. Where did it come from? Read labels, see what else is in there, and see if anything is processed about it. And if it isn't, then you're getting pure good olive oil or anything else that you choose. Thank you for joining us today. We're talking about reproductive health, and we're with functional medicine practitioner and fertility specialist Courtney Saye. And if you want to become part of this conversation and you're watching live, call us right now. We're at area code 323-524-2599. Give us a call. Not if you're driving. You can ask us a question later, post-show. I know, Courtney, that you got some questions from your base, from Instagram and stuff. I wonder, should we address those questions before we get into the IVF path and people have to go through that?
For sure. I've got a couple over here. I did want to hit a little bit on something you were talking about before the break, because I think it's important. Functional health is out of reach for a good number of people, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not covered by insurance. It's expensive. It costs multiple thousands of dollars to get the test done and have the program support. But I am always trying to put content out to my audience on social platforms to reach them with things that you can do for free, like things that you can do right now to help reverse symptoms of disease and improve your fertility. You don't have to have a ton of money to do it. And I just wanted to cover a couple of
Yeah,
quick tips
please
for
do.
that
That's
group.
what I'm here to give information to help people, because there are people listening that I'm sure, and you and I have advertised this show. There are people listening that I'm sure are having issues or have had
Yeah,
issues or know someone. So yes, let's give them some good points and tips.
awesome. So starters, you never want to try to do 50 things at once. But like Debbie was mentioning, eating real food is super important. And one of the first things I work on with clients is blood sugar balance, which is super important. An easy way to work on this, which will help your hormones downstream, is to get breakfast in your body, a good breakfast with at least 30 grams of protein within about an hour of waking up. If you're a coffee drinker, save that cup of coffee and try to keep it to 1 cup of coffee a day for right after breakfast, and don't have it any later than noon. So get that solid base and then have your cup of coffee versus running to the coffee pot and then eating at 11 a.m. You're going to want to
So
get,
many people right now are into this intermittent fasting and time, restricted eating. And I think if you're on the, trying to get pregnant, that's probably not the best way to go about it, correct?
so yeah, and it's a hard paradigm shift for people
Mm-hmm.
to unwind because there is so much in your face about how healthy it is. Couple things there. One, most of the studies around intermittent fasting were done with men. Um, Premenopausal women, especially when you're trying to optimize your fertility, really don't tend to do well with this. I'll give you an example. One client that I'm working with right now, she had a child a few years ago, had been having trouble. She'd been about 18 months when she came to me, and she thought she was doing everything right to detox her body by using intermittent fasting, because it's so publicized. And
Mm-hmm.
when we looked at everything, her endocrine system had basically shut down. She was taking in so few calories in the time she was eating, and there was so much stress on her body from that long window of not eating, that her hormones were in postmenopausal ranges already. And she's
Wow.
not old enough to be there. She thought, I mean, she was having a regular cycle, but there's no way ovulation is happening in there. That's not going to support a pregnancy. And the thing is, your body has to feel safe. Your body has to be in a state of feeling safe to conceive. It's biology, right? Like when our
Mm-hmm.
bodies
It's
don't
the
feel safe, the
basic.
last thing they're going to do is create another human for us to take care of. So yeah, I have not seen it work well with any of my clients because most of them are pretty, like their adrenals are pretty taxed already, and it doesn't work when you're under stress.
So protein first thing in the morning
Hmm.
before
Yeah.
coffee, and then
Yes.
1 cup of coffee, and then what
Yeah.
else? What else do you suggest people can do to get
Yeah.
on the health road to fertility?
So with the food, like keep that up throughout the day, 30 grams of protein with each meal. And then I say no naked carbs. So if you're going to have a snack, like apples and bananas are great snacks, right? But pair some protein and a little fat with it. Like grab some peanut butter or beef jerky to go with your carbs. And carbs are fruits and vegetables too, not just processed carbs or starches. So try to get 100 grams of protein in the day and spread like that. So I'll give you just a couple more. Sleep is super important. I think especially with like our phones at our fingertips, it gets tossed aside a lot. Try to get to sleep by 10 p.m. in a dark room, like blackout curtains. They're cheap on Amazon now. Turn off all the electronics in the room at least an hour before you go to sleep. Um, and grab a Wi-Fi kill switch. These are also super cheap on Amazon. You plug your router into it, and you keep a little remote control by your bed, and you turn the Wi-Fi off, and then you're not getting EMF exposure all night long while you're sleeping. Um,
Yeah.
Exercise, I'll give you one more. That's an easy free one. A lot of women come to me. I feel like this is just our nature as women. We're either like all in or not in at all. So they're either not moving their bodies at all, and not exercising, or they're overdoing it. Like a lot of high impact exercises, cardio, things that are like really depleting it's too much. And again, much like the intermittent fasting, people come to me with infertility and their adrenals are taxed, and these exercises over here are putting more stress on your body. So I tell people that if you really like something high intensity like running or a really tough workout class where there's a lot of cardio in it, Orange Theory, Peloton, all that stuff, um, Keep it to the part of your cycle after you've stopped bleeding and before ovulation. After ovulation, like your hormones are in no shape to handle that. You need to keep it to walking, lifting weights, Pilates, things that are pretty low impact.
That's really good advice. I don't think most people know that. Just in general, I think that's good advice, but definitely if you're on the quest to conceive, because I don't think people know that. We're so, again, we're kind of a society where our adrenals are really shot because we live in such a fast lane. That's what fast food is about. That's why when people are more sick and so on down the line. And it seems like there's a competitiveness to hit it hard, hit more, burn, it's a calorie thing. Yeah. Let me tell you, calories, there are no two calories alike. Just because you're burning calories, it matters about the type of calories that you put back in. We need sufficient calories. We need good, healthy calories. And to try, a lot of times you'll see people after they've done a high cardio workout, they'll post their Apple Watch calorie burn. Yay, but that's not really what it's about. Yes, there's a health component to having a HIIT routine and getting high intensity intervals in there. But then that just says to me that you're trying to be competitive with the other people that are doing the same thing. See, how much I burned in this period of time, and now you're depleted. You're just working in depletion. I don't think people really understand that, how dangerous that can be. It's working out is important, but the way you work out is also important too. And
100%. And we find, and you may see this in your practice too, but a lot of people actually hold on to extra weight too when they're not eating enough and they're working out too much.
Yes.
And they can't lose weight because their thyroid is shutting down, their adrenals are a mess, like they're unable to drop extra weight off. And it is a hard paradigm shift to say, actually, you can't be in this state of like this whole calories in, calories out thing that was fed to us for so many years only works for a few weeks. You can do that for like 4 to 8 weeks. And then your metabolic processes are like, actually, I guess I got to hold on to everything that comes into my body. So.
Yeah, because they think that you're going to be depleted. And that's one of the first questions I get a lot of time when I work with both my personal training and health coaching. And I have clients that do both, health coach and personal train with me. And one of the very first questions I get is, should I be counting calories? And and I'm like, no. Let's talk about what a calorie is, why it's important to eat good, nourishing food in the right amount, and not worry about what that calorie intake is, and we, everybody's so individual. So we go through it individually, what's important, what they like and dislike, and how we can keep it in the healthy zone. So let's get to the questions. And then I want to talk about IVF and when it is necessary and maybe not necessary, and people should come, down your. I would always say anybody who's going through an issue and is having trouble getting pregnant, we should go your road first before they go into the whole IVF process. Wouldn't you say that?
Yeah, and I tell people this all the time, like even if you're going to do IVF, because some people have a genetic reason why they're going to do IVF. Some people are, 43 years old and they don't want to try naturally for a while, whatever the circumstances. There's no good reason not to get your body in as optimal shape as possible for that IVF. And you talked about money earlier. Functional health is expensive, but it's a fraction of the cost of what most people spend on fertility treatments, because the average for a successful pregnancy with treatments is about $65,000. It's not this like quick fix that most people think it is. Some couples have quick luck, and that's amazing. But when the average is there, and I have clients with big loans, like it's a huge investment. And doing this and getting your body in shape, whether you're going to go natural or go back over there, is just it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, it would seem it just makes sense to do it. At least have a consultation with you and just hear even the little suggestions that you can make, and doing your first set of labs that you could just see what's going on, and then making those changes. And then I imagine what happens is if people find out what the root cause is. And it takes time for things to change in your body, right? Even when you start putting in the nutrients and start the lifestyle hacks or the things that you should be doing to get an optimal health to conceive, that doesn't happen overnight either. So people have to be patient, I would assume, before they just jump in and say, "Oh, that's not working," and then go to IVF.
Yeah, there's a very specific program methodology that is built to rebuild cellular health, get through any gut protocols that are needed, and then support them on their path back to trying naturally or to fertility treatments. And timing wise, if you look at the average of how long it takes in fertility treatments and the cost, you're looking at a little more time over here for most people anyway, if they're going the traditional route. Our program is 6 months. The bulk of the work is in the first 4 months where they're running tests, we're getting them back, we're working on the holistic piece of it, the lifestyle changes that need to be made. And then we work through nutrient and mineral protocols and gut protocols that take us towards the end of that program. And the last month is kind of program wrap up and making sure they feel supported. So it takes some time, and a lot of people are in total like fight or flight, living in 2-week increments when they're trying to conceive. And I get it, I've been there. You're like, every month is life or death.
Mm-hmm.
I had an older child, and I kept I had this picture of how far apart I wanted my kids, and like every month was further from that dream, and painful, more and more painful, because
it's a loss.
I thought
you go through,
loss, right?
It's a letdown. It's a disappointment, and that hurts. You're almost. It's a grief. It's a form of grief. I'm
100%.
seeing it. I'm seeing it personally, so I understand.
Yeah,
and so
it really is, and not everybody's ready to go there. But if they wrap their head around the fact that this time investment is actually gonna condense the time to baby, it's gonna speed things up. It's gonna bring you better health for years to come after the baby is born too. You can actually get there quicker by taking these few months.
Makes sense.
They dive in, and I feel like everybody is still early on because they've had so much. Most of them have been through a lot. They're hesitant, and then we start to get labs back, and they get answers for the first time ever for most of them. Most of them have never found any help in labs. And it correlates back to what they have going on, not just with their fertility, but other symptoms in their body. And then they start to buy in, and they buy in more, and they get on board, and they start to see changes. And so, it's tough though to go, okay, I'm going to try something different and commit for a few months, because it's a gripping grief every month.
Yeah. And it's so beneficial too, because beyond the pregnancy and the baby, you've now got a lifestyle change that's going to benefit you for the rest of your life. And of course, that's what I'm all about, is the quality, longevity, aging young, without all of the ailments that we think typically come with age, because we're up against so much, because everything slows down, everything resets, as we age, and knowing ahead of time how to take care of yourself during that process in itself. Like you said, you did all your work post baby, to keep it up is such a benefit. You wouldn't need someone like me, because I see a lot of women over 40 that are going down bad holes of autoimmune diseases, cancers, depression, you name it. And had they had those answers earlier in their life and done some of those labs, they may have been able to avoid what they were doing to contribute to that and change that directory. So it's so beneficial. It's worth every penny, I think. I also still think insurance should cover stuff like this. Insurance should cover preventative medicine, period. We are getting close here, and so I want to address the questions that you were asked online and by your people.
Yeah, the first one that came in was around gut health and how we test for gut health. I don't know if we have
there's a chart, Tony. Can you put it? Not everybody can see us, but we can still talk about. We'll put the chart up.
It's the one.
That one.
Yeah. Yep. So this is a screenshot from what's called the GI map. It's a PCR stool test. You do it at home, and you send it back via FedEx. And it gives us so much good information. No one likes doing a stool test, but
No,
it's in the
but it's
privacy.
important,
It's so fun, but it's in the privacy of your own home, and you ship it off. And this is just a snapshot from the last page of the GI map. And what I want to point out, I know this screenshot I sent over wasn't super clear, but under the second section, the GI markers, there's something called B-glucuronidase. And for this client, it was high. You can see that it's in red on results, and then it's over to the right in red. This is a super important one when we're talking about fertility. It is representing, usually when I see this, I know there's some liver congestion going on because the liver is what is processing the B-glucuronidase. And if this is happening, it's signaling to me that there's liver congestion. And this, what's going to happen is estrogen is going to recirculate back into the body instead for lack of like a better way to say it, instead of being pooped out. It's being recirculated back into the body when this is high. And that can cause all sorts of symptoms of estrogen dominance, which I'm sure you've seen in your practice. And what we don't want to see is estrogen dominating over progesterone, because we want progesterone to be in equal balance when we're trying to get pregnant, anytime really, but especially when you're trying to get pregnant. So this is just an example of one of we have a ton of markers on here that are super helpful.
So what would you tell this patient to do or not to do, or take or not take? Yeah.
I see this a decent amount, and the first like low-hanging fruit is alcohol and sugar, because those are hard on the liver. So if you're drinking, like pull it back as much as you can. Like if you want to have one at a wedding or for something special, okay, but make sure you've had a full dinner before you have it. If you can cut alcohol out completely, awesome. Processed foods and sugar can be hard on the liver too. And then we look at like any they're taking a lot of over-the-counter medications like Advil and things like that. Those can be hard on the liver. We also support the liver with things like castor oil packs. Those are super helpful. We make sure they're getting enough hydration and good nutrition in the diet. And then for clients who are willing to try something a little bit different, something called the coffee enema is also super helpful for supporting the liver. People think of enemas as eliminating stool, but really this is for supporting glutathione production, and glutathione is like the master antioxidant in the body, and it supports your liver. So those are just a few things that we can work on. When I see that high, I know we need to love on the liver a little bit.
Wow, that's so cool. And again, a lifetime thing to know about and be really aware of post-baby, really aware of. Any other questions?
Yeah. So this other gal, pull it up, said, another one just came in too.
Oh, good. We're getting people who don't want to call, but that's so cute.
I'm
looking, I'm going to look and see if I have questions on the page.
So, just had a miscarriage at 6 weeks. Any info on how to prevent it again, or reasons why it may have happened? My progesterone level was fine. So she must have had a beta and progesterone done at her doctor before the miscarriage. We kind of talked about this earlier when I was talking about my story. Sometimes people will have a miscarriage even when they're doing everything right. And it's hard to know what could be contributing to it if you haven't had tests run. So I'll give you one example of a client that I'm working with right now who'd had multiple miscarriages and multiple failed IVF cycles before she came to me. And she had two things that tied really closely to early miscarriages. One is subclinical thyroid condition, where she's dealing with slow thyroid function, but the physician ranges where they said, traditional lab ranges that everything looks good. Yeah. So they didn't flag it, and she never addressed any thyroid issues. And then she had what's called an MTHFR mutation, and that's a mutation on a gene that makes it hard for us to convert folic acid into folate and can contribute to early miscarriages. Those are a couple of things I see frequently in labs.
I love it that you test for that. Well, we are winding down. Any more questions? One more we could probably have time for if you had one more. No?
One more just came in that's asking about Western medicine, saying, 14.2 progesterone level, or my progesterone level is 14.2. Western medicine says that normal. Is it optimal for fertility? A progesterone level of 14 indicates that you've had a healthy ovulation. Anything over 10 indicates that. Obviously, over 20 is better, but levels over 10 of progesterone have been associated with healthy, successful pregnancy outcomes.
Wow, good. God, I hope. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining this conversation today and asking those questions. That's what we want to do. We want to address that. Courtney, we're down to it. I want you to, if you had one thing to say from fertility, what would be one tip that you could, it would be an optimal fertility tip for people that are seeking to get pregnant?
Yeah. If I say listen to one thing that I say, I always say that it's focusing on managing your blood sugar, which confuses people because they think about diabetes or PCOS, but only about it's under 10% of the population is metabolically healthy, which means focusing on your blood sugar is important for the vast majority of us. So if you go back to those things I talked about earlier around nutrition and protein in the morning and coffee after breakfast and throughout the day, that's going to be a first big step, low-hanging fruit to starting to balance your blood sugar.
Love it. Very good. I feel like we've only touched the surface. We're going to have to do another show. We'll kind of title it a little differently, but I feel like this is a really important topic. I've talked to clients, a lot of my clients are older, but their kids might be going through this, which, again, they're going through it as a grandparent. So not physically, but there's an emotional component. And that's the whole other thing we didn't even touch on, the emotional roller coaster that you go on here. I want to thank you for your time and your expertise and all the knowledge and patience that you have in this subject, and the people that you are benefiting is amazing. How can people get a hold of you?
Sure. So I think we've got my website here. It's
yes, but say it because a lot of people just listen.
Okay. thrivefunctionally.com. There's ways to reach out via the website. I am very active on Instagram. I have a TikTok, but it's not my thing. So
no, but you're very, very active on Instagram. Very active.
I have a lot of conversations in the DMs over there. So reach out. I am on there multiple times a day, checking in, follow along. There's more of this, advice along the way. If you're just a lurker and looking for some free advice, or you want to chat about the one-on-one, either way, Instagram's probably your best bet for connecting. Yes. And it's fertility functionally is the handle over on Instagram.
Yes. Perfect. Yeah. And we want to keep this conversation going. So you can go to my Instagram, which is Balanced Life by Debbie, DEBI again. You could go and in the comment section or my Facebook page where we're streaming live on YouTube right now. You could go there. You can become part of this conversation. Go there, ask a question, make a comment. Like I said, post-show, Courtney can answer these questions. We want to keep the conversation going. That's what this show's all about. So, Courtney, I want to thank you again for your time. Thank you for being my guest today. And for you, my audience, I want to thank you. I do the show the second and fourth Tuesday of every month. I'll be back in 2 weeks. But in the meantime, I want you to keep going out and finding those conversations that connect to a healthier you. All right, everybody, bye. See you in 2 weeks.